In Canada, we had COVID lockdowns, then we had climate lockdowns. Are we now headed into energy lockdowns? Tonight we find out. My name's Nico Lagan, and I'm too conservative for the conservatives. My co-host Rob Ambrose, not woken up for the liberals. We are the political orphans. So, I'm a conspiracy theorist. I do a lot of research.
I'm familiar.
Into the underworld of the news, not what the mainstream media is talking about, but I started doing some research earlier.
What's the latest?
Well, have you heard of energy lockdowns? Does that make sense to you? Is that a term you're familiar with?
Is it related to, now I've heard like there are some places like New Zealand and maybe Australia in that part of the world that have like 10 days left of fuel and they don't know what they're going to do. And I guess you could maybe make the case that they might try to input energy lockdowns. Is it kind of related to that? Is it related to the Iran thing? I guess I should say.
Yes, 100,000,000,000%. Yes. Okay. And funny enough, I started this from a conspiracy theorist angle because I follow a lot of guys that talk about this stuff that always talk about what's not in the news. So I'm like, oh, that has to be something that most people consider a theory, like a conspiracy theory. As I started to research it, this is a fact. What I'm going to propose today are basically a fact. The only portion, the end, my conclusion is where the conspiracy theory might be, that what we need to keep our eyes on. But what we're going to be talking about right now is all facts. Like, those are not a conspiracy. This is just actual information. So first and foremost, yes, we are talking about what's going on between the US and Iran and the impact that the Iranian war is having on the world. But it is considered one of the single biggest threat to the global economy, the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. So that like 23 to 33 kilometer wide opening from the Persian Gulf to the ocean.
Something like 30% of the world's oil travels through the Strait of Hormuz.
Not quite. We're going to talk about the numbers, but some call it the most significant energy disruption in human history, surpassing what happened in 1970s. And the Strait of Hormuz is a narrow sea lane between Iran and Oman that connects the Persian Gulf to the open sea. It's considered the world's most critical maritime choke points. And it is not 30%, but 20% roughly, at least. Before the conflict started on February 28th, you were talking about 20 to 21 million barrels of oil every day flowed through it. That's about 20% of the world's daily oil consumption. To put it into perspective, Canada consumes 2.3 million barrels of oil every day. And we're talking about 20 to 21 that goes through there. So you're literally talking almost 10 times what Canada uses every single day. Now, Iran officially declared the strait as closed on March 2nd, following military strike by the US and Israel. They're calling, this is interesting, they call it the Toll Booth effect. So basically right now they're deciding who can and cannot go through the strait. So it's up to them. They decide if, let's say, they're allowing selective.
Yeah, so they're going to allow like Chinese ships, for example, because they're allies with China.
India, Syria, yes. Yeah. They pick and choose who's allowed to go through. And here's a term that's very interesting. I had never heard about this before, but they call it the air pocket. We're currently hitting a massive air pocket, meaning that ships that cleared the strait before the war finally reached their ports. By next week, it's estimated that there is nothing left in the pipeline. So basically, whatever left that stray before the war started, and that on the second Iran said, screw this, we're closing it. If you're not part of the countries that Iran still lets their ships go through, by next week, you're out. You are not getting replenished in oil. Now, there's major producers like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Kuwait that have declared force majeure For those who don't know, that basically just means that it's a contract. It's a legal term. Basically, it means that they cannot fulfill their
They don't
contract.
have to deliver. Yeah.
They can't. It's not that they don't have to.
Yes.
They can't. They're
Yes.
basically saying we are not.
Yeah. So they say they can't, and then legally they no longer have to. Like the contract is basically, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha.
And by closing it, Iran's preventing Gulf producers like Saudi Arabia, UAE, Kuwait, Iraq, Qatar from exporting their oil, which means the global supply drops suddenly, at least by 20%, obviously, because that's what they prevent. But where it's interesting, and you're already seeing it in the Philippines, you're seeing it in Thailand, you're seeing it in a lot of Asian countries, because 80% of the oil going through the Strait ends up in Asia. So you're talking China, India, Japan, South Korea. I've seen videos from the Philippines. I've seen stuff from Thailand. But it's not just oil. They say around 20% of the world's LNG, so liquid natural gas, also go through that strait, and it's mostly from Qatar. And basically, this is a massive problem for Europe and Asia because that's where they get it from. Now,
it's a huge problem.
Oh yeah, that's why some people are calling it the worst energy crisis the world has ever faced, like humans have ever faced. And the price impact right now, I don't know if you saw. Well, you probably saw it at the pump, right?
Oh yeah. It's like $1.78. It was $1.30, like maybe a month ago. Now it's about $1.78 or so around here, at least.
We don't tank a lot, my wife and I, because we don't, like, my gym is super close. We both work from home, so we don't need to go far. So we tank like once a month, give or take. And last time we tanked, it was expensive at 140. Yesterday I saw it at 195. 195.
It's
so
crazy,
they're estimating that the Brent crude oil prices surpassed $100 US a barrel on March 8th for the first time in 4 years. Now they're up to 126 per barrel. Sorry, it was at 126 a barrel at its peak. And obviously, if we're talking for the first time in 4 years, COVID, that's basically what the time that we were in. Brent crude has surged nearly 50% to 112 a barrel since the start of the war. So that was March 8th.
What's crazy is we pump enough oil every day to feed our needs. I think it's like 3 million a day, but we don't have the infrastructure. It all goes to the States. We have pipelines to bring it to the States, but we cannot bring it to that's why it's so expensive here. We're buying Saudi Arabian and Middle Eastern oil out here on the East Coast, at least. I'm not sure out of the West how it goes, but
if you give me 2 minutes, we'll talk exactly. We'll talk exactly about that, because I was thinking about what you said in the past, that when you were in Nova Scotia, you could see the oil
a lineup of ships going out, maybe 10 ships at a time, and it's constant. There's always a backlog because they're bringing in Middle Eastern oil.
So if you look, like I was saying earlier, Thailand, India, Korea, Philippines are the most vulnerable to higher oil due to their high import dependencies because they don't produce any. Qatar and the UAE account for 99% of Pakistan's NLG import, 72% of Bangladesh, and 53% of India. You can see that in those countries right now, it is not good. Like, they're in fucking trouble right now. It's estimated that South Korea is in crisis mode right now, setting up emergency economic task force. The Philippines declared a national emergency, citing an imminent danger to a critical low energy supply. Now, what does that mean to Canada? Because you're absolutely right. Canada is not directly dependent on the Hormuz oil. We produce our own. Actually, we produce more than we consume. We produce about what you said, just over 3 million, and we consume 2.2 to 2.3 barrel a day. So nationally, Canada is not dependent on the Middle East, but for Eastern Canada, it's a different story. Like you said, you're talking Ontario, Quebec, the Atlantic provinces, import from the US, Saudi Arabia, Nigeria, and Norway, instead of Alberta, because Quebec especially refuses to build those fucking pipelines. Now, here is the part that most people don't talk about. I've seen posts from MPs literally in office right now that did not understand this very simple principle here. Although we don't buy directly from the Iran Gulf, oil is priced globally. When the Brent crude surge 50%, Canadians can expect to pay 50% more at the pump. And it impacts supply chains. It will impact food prices. Everything transported by truck or planes get more expensive because Canada is relying on the price of the global economy, which is absolutely fucking stupid when you think about it, considering that we are the third largest producer of oil in the world, that we depend on world costs makes no sense. But we'll get to that in a minute. And this is where the conspiracy, and I'm happy we're going to have time for you to tell me what you think. But the latest escalations right now, until today, I just caught that when I was doing research for this. Trump set a 48-hour deadline to open the strait, threatening to destroy Iranian power plants. Iran pretty much responded saying the strait would be completely closed immediately if the U.S. follows through this threat. I don't know if you saw the video, but there's a video that's trending right now where you're seeing a bunch of countries that the U.S. have attacked in the past, like Iraq, like Vietnam, like
I think I did see that.
They're all looking up.
Yeah.
What are they looking up? And then you see a missile leaving Iran with the Iran flag on it. It's going to the to New York. It's not quite the Statue of Liberty. It's a replica of something else, but they're basically saying we're going to attack you and the world's clapping somehow. Like the video is actually clever. If it is true, I was laughing. I was actually laughing. But Trump released this statement earlier. I said I found it just before I jumped on the show. Trump basically, I'm just going to share my screen here. Trump basically said the following. Pump that up. As per Iranian government request, please let this statement serve to represent that I am pausing the period of energy plant destruction by 10 days to Monday, April 6, 2026 at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Talks are ongoing, and despite erroneous statements from the contrary by the fake news media and others, they are going well. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. It's funny, he always signs like that.
Thank you for
your attention
to this matter.
But so that's the latest. Now, here is where it gets interesting, because governments in the world are implementing demand destruction policies, meaning they're trying to prevent a total collapse of their fuel reserves. Fuel rations are starting in places like Slovenia and Sri Lanka. Now, have you ever heard of something called the International Energy Agency?
No. Is it's an international body, not a U.S. government? Okay. No, I don't think so.
It's an international body.
Okay.
That is, its core member has about 30 countries. Basically, all the countries in the West, all the first world countries in the West are part of it.
Okay.
And it's basically a body that makes suggestions, if you will, as to how we deal with energy crisis. Like they have
the World Health Organization.
Oh, bro, I've had my impact on you, because this is exact. As soon as I read this, I'm like, WHO. But they have released a record of 400 million barrels from strategic reserves, but it's a short-term buffer that will only last until the end of this month. So you're looking not even a week. Canada had provided just over 20 million barrels for that reserve. So there's like 30 countries. They all provide oil, and then that body decides what it does with all that massive amount of money.
Okay.
So basically, the IEA, is recommending that governments enforce the following: mandatory work from home to save fuel, reduced highway speeds limit by 10 kilometers or more, odd even car access in cities based on license plate numbers, Banning air travels where alternatives exist. Those are plans that are being proposed by the International Energy Agency. And it's funny because your brain were exactly where mine went. I'm like, it's important to understand that the IEA doesn't have the power
Sure.
to force countries to do,
but neither did the WHO either.
So they cannot force you into compliance, but just like the WHO, it plays a major role in influencing how governments respond to a crisis.
Yeah.
Now listen to this part, because this is so right up to now, all facts, 100% facts. What I provided up to now, those are facts. They're not up for discussion. What I'm going to talk about now this is where to me, yes, but you already started to see where I'm going with this, because you mentioned the WHO. As soon as I read about this, I'm like, oh shit, another WHO. So there's a connection for the energy lockdown. At least this is speculative, obviously, but Canadian gas could hit something like $3+ a liter. If this is not resolved, what's going on in Iran right now, we're looking that in the next few weeks, we could hit $3+ a liter. Heating costs would explode going into next winter. Food prices spike because everything's transported. Not that we don't have a 7.2 inflation already. The Bank of Canada would face impossible choices between fighting inflation and supporting a slowing economy. Canadians who are already living paycheck to paycheck, which is 25% of Canadians, and are 25% of, Canadians are living paycheck to paycheck, which I'd be ready to bet that it's over 50. I need to check at those numbers, but those numbers are way higher than 25%. 25% are food insecure. So imagine how they're going to get crushed. Now, here is where I think it becomes very fucking interesting, because as the country that has the third largest proven oil reserve in the world, if I was in power right now, my first response to this 3 weeks ago would have been, I remove every single red tape policy that is preventing me from drilling. That would have been my first response to this, because I do not want Canada to go into energy lockdowns. Is that what's happening? Obviously not. Our government is not responding by drilling more, doing everything possible in order to supply as much gas as you want. Plus, it would only make sense, man. Can you imagine? Instead of people buying the 20% that goes through Iran, we're like, hey guys, we have those reserves. We'll sell them to you. No problem. We'll be rich like Saudi Arabia's motherfuckers. Oh, yeah. But obviously that's not what you're hearing, right? You're not hearing our government do that yet. Anybody that's in business would hear this. It's like, I have all this oil here that I could use, invest all the money possible to expedite the construction, the building, the extraction, whatever needs to be done. Let's fucking do it. But obviously this is not what's happening. So the thing that we need to keep our eyes on is if we start hearing about energy lockdowns in North America. Because if that happens, this is COVID 2.0.
I mean,
that would be COVID 3.0, because you have COVID, then you had the climate lockdown, which our guest at 7:30, Jeff Evely, is going to talk about his case, and he was part of the climate lockdowns. But then if we start seeing energy lockdowns in Canada, you start to see that, I guarantee you, they're going to start talking about digital IDs. They're going to start talking about carbon footprint, what you can and cannot eat. It's already being started in the UK. And then you're going to start seeing those 15-minute cities discussion really become open. I guarantee you that the plan, if this happens here, is to get us locked in, just like they did during COVID for a good 2 years, so that they can push all that climate bullshit to force us into 15-minute cities. That's my call. But we'll keep an eye on it. No doubt I'll be talking about this later. But
yeah, I mean, it's certainly, certainly you're definitely more sort of naturally conspiratorial minded, but we should all be keeping an eye out for it. Like, we should all be looking for this, because it's, it's not the kind of thing that's going to we're not going to wake up one day and it'll be locked down. It's gonna, we're going to hear about it. They're going to talk about it first. You're going to see it in the news. The media is going to get the signal. All right, you guys start talking about this, and they'll talk about it like, oh, maybe it won't happen, but it'd be a good thing if it did. And that's, it's their job to soften up the ground, right? But it's really frustrating, because this is the stuff that we've been talking about for a long time. Is we need to be exploiting our natural resources. The thing is, if you wait for a crisis like this, it's already too late.
Too late.
Right? It takes years to build these things, to get them up and running. You have to have them ready before you get into the crisis. That's the whole point of fucking leadership. That's what good governance is supposed to be all about. Not waiting for a crisis, and then you're just at the mercy of the crisis. We produce more oil than we need, or than we use, and we're at the mercy of this oil crisis because of something that's going on in fucking Iran, halfway across the world. That's insane.
There's a couple of good comments here that I need to take. One's from Trevor, and one's from Derek Seitler. Pretty much came in at the same time. Who's in a war? You think anything being sent south will make it back? And expect the U.S. to trim back fuel coming back into Canada and out east as well. And I totally agree, because technically we don't have the refineries to refine the oil that we produce every day. We send it back to the US at a very cheap price, and then they send it back to us clean so that we can consume it. But what do you think is going to happen if we go into an energy shortage? Obviously, they're not going to send it all back as they're supposed to. They're just going to keep it for themselves. Like, they're not.
Yeah, of course.
What the fuck are we going to do? Stop doing that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and we don't have any other option. All we can do is ask nicely. But it's a complete failure of imagination that our government, and it's been the Liberals for 10 years, right, that they have not gamed this out, that they have not seen this as a potential outcome and protected, and all because certain provinces get to veto what's good for Canada. Certain Indigenous tribes, they get to veto what's good for Canada. You can't run a fucking country like this. This is crazy.
So this is where you and I always going to disagree. Is you're saying that it's because of the provinces. I'm saying that was the plan all along.
It's not the only cause. I mean,
no. What I'm saying is that was the plan all along. I am telling you, man, COVID was the test. This is their real plan. What's happening right now, you might not believe me that I'm right. You might think I'm crazy. But if they do speak about energy lockdowns in Canada, I guarantee you, man. If
they do, I'll be there with you.
They will plan to lock us down for at least 2 years to make sure that we get used to working from home, not being able to go anywhere. Doesn't that sound familiar? Like the COVID lockdowns?
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, it's not going to sneak up on us this time. I mean, the people are going to know.
And Persegi? Is that how we pronounce the name?
Persang?
Enjoy net zero.
Tulio. Puro sang Tulio.
Enjoy net zero.
Yeah, this will be ultimate net zero.
But this is how they're going to this is exactly how they would implement net zero, like the 2030 agenda or even the 2050 net zero agenda, is by planning this. They tested it out during COVID, man, and people complied. People did what, like good little Canadians, and they stayed home and they did what the government said. Only 9% of us chose to tell them to go fuck themselves, and I was still living my life, bro. I was still fucking traveling wherever the fuck I wanted to go. I just couldn't leave the country. But I'm curious this time, because you're right. I agree with you completely that this time we see it coming. This time it shouldn't be a surprise.
Yeah.
Like, I'm telling you right now, if you hear the word energy lockdown in Canada, if you hear the word we need to save our energy when we have the third largest oil reserve in the world and the #1 producer of hydroelectricity in the world, if you have a country that arguably has the most natural resources, with Australia going on an energy lockdown, because it's been said that in Australia right now they're headed into energy lockdown. Some people are saying it's because they don't have any oil, or some people are saying it's because there's been a very bad storm that destroyed a lot of infrastructure. So it's hard to tell, right? We're not from there, but both make sense. But what I'm saying is we have arguably equal with Australia the most natural resources. I did the calculation. We have the most natural resources per capita in the fucking world by a fucking mile. It's not even close. Yet we don't even extract it. So if you hear energy lockdown, it was planned. This was the goal.
Well, like I said,
10 years ago when we fucking signed the climate agenda of the Paris Accord in 2015.
Or like you said, we don't necessarily agree on this part of it yet, but I'm looking for it, right? If it gets to that point, that will be what finally brings me over and be like, okay, fuck these cunts. These guys are doing this shit on purpose. I actually think that it won't. If they tried it, I don't think it would go the same. I think there's a lot of people who maybe weren't out there protesting during the COVID lockdowns, but would be out there this time, right? Sort of fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you, or however the fuck that goes. But I think there's a lot of people who'll be like, yeah, okay, we tried that, didn't work. We're not putting up with this, especially if it's energy lockdowns, right? If it's energy lockdowns, when we know we live in a country where we are the second or third largest energy superpower, or we should be. There's that people. Of course, there are sheep. There's going to be a lot of sheep, but there's also going to be a lot of people. There's going to be a lot of energy on the other side this time. Well, there already was a lot, but I think there's going to be a lot more.
Yeah, no, you're 100,000,000%. I will be one of the biggest voices talking about this.
Oh, I will be too. If it goes out there, I'll be doing everything I can.
Oh, that's my boy, Detail 77. What's going on, brother? That's my tattoo guy. Fucking love this guy.
Nice. Haven't seen him for a while.
Ultimately, the digital ID is their goal. 15-minute cities destroying supplies to make their points. I completely agree. This is, to me, is if you hear the term energy lockdowns, you have to open your eyes and say that this was the plan all along, that it's been going on since 2015, since Trudeau signed the Paris Accord. We've been red taping our natural resources, and there is no way in hell that energy lockdowns should ever happen in Canada unless they're on purpose. This is the point I'm trying to make.
It's such a massive failure of leadership. A massive indictment of the last 10 years of liberal, governance. If we have to go on energy lockdowns, being, a country that holds the second or third most energy in the world, it would be absolutely insane. And I think it might be what's finally the thing to break this insane brainwashing that most Canadians are under, that the Liberals are somehow good for Canada, that these are the guys that are going to lead us to prosperity.
It's going to be a turning point.
I think it will.
It either goes south for the elites and we finally grow a pair and push back.
Yeah, it's a turning point either way. Or if people don't rise up after that, I'll be right there. I'll be right there with you. I'll be right there with you. We're cooked.
Yeah. On that note, we need to speak about our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Miss Cleo's Pet Treats. 100% natural health dog treat, free from preservatives, additives, and fillers, made by hand right here in Canada. Not only are the treats handmade, but the meat is sourced locally from farms in Manitoba. So if you know that your dog deserves better than that Chinese meat crap that you find everywhere, go to Cleo's Cookies and Treats.ca. Use the discount code Political Orphans and get 20% off your entire purchase. Just look in the description below. The link's there. The discount code is there. And man, she should start saying that the meat is so good that you as a human could eat it. It's so good that humans could eat it. It's literally jerky. There's no preservatives. There's nothing. It's just fucking jerky. It's dog jerky. On that note, we do have a guest, and it's funny that we were talking about energy lockdowns because now we're going to talk to someone that faced the climate lockdowns. We are joined by the man who took a $28,000 walk in the woods of Nova Scotia, Jeff Evely, to talk about his case. Mr. Jeff Santa Claus Evely, what's going on, bro?
Oh, this is it, brother. How you doing? Good.
Great to have you back. Great to have you back.
Yeah,
Damn, that beard is majestic.
Yeah, it keeps getting more and more.
It's a mane, but thank you.
That beard would not accept energy lockdowns. Whatever Jeff is doing, that beard's out there protesting for sure.
Yeah.
So talk to us about. Yeah. So talk about your case, man. What's going on? I know that you're finally in court right now, and you're represented by the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms, right?
Yeah, that's right. So we were in court last week. We had 3 days worth of hearings where actually 2 charter challenges were presented. Public interest challenge by the Canadian Constitution Foundation and a private interest challenge by the JCCF. That was on my behalf. So 2 different civil liberties organizations, 2 separate charter challenges, one in the public and one in the private interest. I think that's about as good a shot as we're going to get at reigning in the government. I thought it went well. It seemed to me that the CCF actually totally just decimated the government, like in the first morning worth of presenting their case. It was pretty open and shut to my mind, but stranger things have happened, and you never know what you're going to get out of these boomer judges.
That's right. So what kind of timeline are we looking at?
You're confident.
Yeah, go ahead.
You feel confident? I was just confirming if you felt. Oh, okay.
No, there is the boomer judge factor to consider. I thought that the Canadian Constitution Foundation and the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms did an outstanding job presenting the case. It looked to me like it was open and shut, airtight, point final, and but at the same time, stranger things have happened. And even when it was the government's turn to present their case, I mean, it was really lame. And in their own written submissions, the government actually acknowledged that they don't believe that our right to liberty means we have a right to roam around. They were like, you don't actually have a right to just kind of wander around in your right to liberty. And the CCF said in the first morning, they're like, look, they said it right there in their own submissions. We've actually had a right to do this for about 800 years, and it's part of the common law that we inherited. And if they show that they failed to properly weigh our rights when rendering the decision to issue the proclamation to ban us all from the woods, then right off the bat, it fails the legal test and it is unconstitutional. So it was like, wow. to me, it was like they it was a self-own on the part of the Nova Scotia government. They basically made the case for me when they said that we don't have a right to liberty. Or, well, we do have a right to liberty, but they think of rights as permission, obviously. We don't have permission to just wander around. We need that from our lords and masters at Citadel Hill. So.
Do you get the feeling that the government of Canada is, to paraphrase Donald Trump, not sending their best? Are they kind of mailing this in, and do they think this is a slam dunk, or do they just not care? Like, what's your vibe here?
The lawyer himself on the government's behalf. Yeah, I didn't. I think I probably could have done a better job than he did. He was like citing outdated case law, and he was even, saying, like thinking out loud, saying, "Oh, I'm just venting. I'm just venting."
Oh, shit. Oh God.
People are able to move around as they please in a free country. There, some of the stuff that they said, he was like, well, obviously they can't just roam around however they want because we have crosswalk signs and stuff like this. And it's like, yeah, that's where reasonable limitations come in. Like, you have the freedom of movement, but you still have to go the speed limit when you're driving. Like you can drive wherever you want, but you have to go the speed limit
Yes.
because that's where your individual liberties are outweighed by the public good, the public safety, that you can't just recklessly endanger others. You don't have a right to do that. So But he just seemed to have a total misapprehension of what our Constitution actually means and what rights actually mean. The whole government did. But at the same time, I don't think that they were deliberately phoning it in, because my understanding is that they actually hired a hotshot lawyer from an outside firm to prosecute my ticket case. So you have to understand, these are the constitutional challenges, the charter applications that were heard last week, and then I contest the ticket itself in July. So hopefully if we get a favorable decision in this case, then maybe we won't have to do that. But I'm not getting my hopes up in modern day Canada.
I don't even know what to say to this. It is absolutely ridiculous that we literally had climate lockdowns in Canada where you cannot go in the woods because it was bad for climate. And now we were talking about energy lockdowns. So what do you think, since you're here, you follow this stuff, you understand what I'm talking about? What are you thinking about energy lockdowns? Do you think it's a thing? Do you think it's coming to Canada, considering what happened to you and what happened during COVID? Is it a far stretch? What are you thinking when you hear energy lockdowns?
I think they'd like to try it. I think they're very lockdown happy, and they got away with goddamn murder, mass murder, to be more specific, during the pandemic. And they've kind of gotten accustomed to just immediately clamping down with the heaviest hand they can find. Locking us out of the woods because it was dry. That's as heavy-handed as it gets. It's just never happened before. So I think they got a little bit too comfortable with trampling our rights in order to assure their own bureaucratic convenience.
Well, and they really give the game away when, if they were really concerned about the woods, then they would have made a lockdown for everyone. But of course, if you were Indigenous or something, or you had a religious reason, you could go in the woods. It was no problem. So it really makes it hard to take it seriously when you see that kind of stuff. Okay, well, now there were exemptions, or were there not? Were there exemptions for Indigenous people, or for yeah?
So Indigenous peoples were still subject to the ban from the woods, but there were permits issued for things like Indigenous fire ceremonies. And also, that was another point that the Canadian Constitution Foundation made, is that Indigenous treaty rights are protected under the Charter, and there was no evidence that there was any attempt to weigh those against the goal they were trying to achieve of preventing wildfires.
So it's crazy when you think about it. What's the timeline on this? So you've had is the trial portion over and you're going to wait for judgment, or is there more trial days, or how does that work?
No, it's all said and done. It's all over but the crying. We're just waiting on the decision from the judge now. So it's anybody's guess as to when they render these things, or how long it takes for them to render these things. I've seen them come back in a few weeks in some of my, cases where I self-represented, like the case where I tried to self-represent in 2023 to say the woods ban that they did at that time was unconstitutional. That came back really quick because it was just a no. But the judge said that he was going to take some time with this, and it would take him a little bit longer than usual. So we could be stretching out into months, before we get a decision. It's really anybody's guess.
But you're hoping it's going to happen before July, because if he does favor you, that makes it very easy to contest that ticket, right?
Yeah, I mean, if the proclamation that I violated turns out to be ultra vires, as in unlawful, then that would definitely help my case when I'm defending myself against this $28,872.50 fine.
Oh yeah, because these are two separate things, right? So you'll still have to go against. This is just to see the constitutionality of the law itself. Is that correct?
Yeah, the proclamation that was issued under the Forests Act, the Forest Act itself would be the law, and then the proclamation is like the law empowers the minister to make the proclamation. But the way that he did it, like he skipped over multiple steps, and he was supposed to basically go from a fire ban to a travel advisory to a travel ban, but the ban was for certain zones within the woods, whereas he did the entire woods. And there was a lot of talk too about just vagueness, because vagueness is another one of these legal tests that it has to pass in order to be constitutional. And the woods is pretty vague. And when you look at the act, the woods actually includes like bogs. It includes rock barrens. And the judge actually asked at one point, he was like, well, what about Peggy's Cove? That's all rock. That's a rock baron. So is that the woods? And then, you know, the government lawyer was like, well, it's not in the forest, though. It's not surrounded by trees, so it wouldn't be the woods. And he's like, well, it doesn't say that in the act. I mean, you know, so what is the woods legally speaking?
I mean, really, I mean, that's that you know, a lot of these legal questions are based on those sorts of like seemingly minor differences. Like we talk a lot about Bill C9 here lately, right? And one of the definitions of hate is any emotion that's stronger than disdain, right? How to
right?
You know, you could spend months in a courtroom arguing over that. What is the legal standard for disdain? So yeah, it'd be really funny if that was where this whole case turns around is on the definition of woods.
Yeah, and you know, these are the kinds of things that. I mean, you're supposed to write the law as clearly as possible. Like if it's vague, then it's unconstitutional. Yeah, it should be the case that, well, I mean, you could also take the, you know, self-defense law in Canada. If somebody breaks into your house in the middle of the night and starts stabbing you in the head, like that guy out in Alberta, like you have to weigh something like 7 different factors before you decide what you're allowed to do in your own self-defense. Yeah, the proportionality is terrible. That's terrible. And
he had a 6-inch knife and he used a 9-inch knife, so it's not proportional.
It's not proportional.
Are we talking about knives here? You're kind of fucking with my head. What the hell are you saying? Those are interesting measurements there, Rob. I'm just saying.
Yeah, 7.5 inches for knives. My wife left me. My knife wasn't long enough.
Mine was 9.
Bringing my own baggage into this.
You said mine was 9, so.
If we are headed in energy lockdowns, are you going to take a walk too?
I mean, what would constitute an energy lockdown? If there's an energy lockdown, I think I'm just going to like burn everything. It's much to turn the heat up and go outside. And, you know.
Well, Nico had read it out earlier.
Like a car idle in the driveway.
Just to get you up to speed, apparently there's this energy international organization similar to a WHO that it doesn't have any power in itself.
Energy Agency, the International Energy
Agency
Agency.
Give guides.
Yeah, we're part of it.
Just like the WHO.
Like literally 30 countries are its core members. Canada, the US, most of the West are part of it. And the International Energy Agency released 400 million barrels from strategic reserves, meaning their core members gave them barrels. Canada gave like 20 million barrels.
Where it was like 10 kilometers on the highway less or something.
Well, here you go. So the IEA recommended the following: mandatory work from home to save fuel, reduce highway speed limits by 10 kilometers or more, odd/even car access in cities based on license plate numbers, and banning air travel where alternatives exist. And this is like the WHO, right? They don't have the power to force anybody to do anything, but countries like the WHO listen to the International Energy Agency because Canada's part of it. And that's what I call energy lockdowns. This is what you're starting to see. So as a country that has the 3rd largest proven oil reserve in the world, number 1 hydroelectricity producer in the world, if you start hearing the terms energy lockdowns or lockdowns from a home, you know that was planned ever since Trudeau signed that Paris Accord in 2015. Yeah. That was all part of the plan, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the Paris Accord really is kind of at the center of it all. And, well, I guess it's more like the UN and the IPCC who make all these recommendations and fire anybody who engages in actual science. They cherry pick the evidence to support the climate change narrative, and they ignore things like variable solar irradiation, which we know is a thing. Like the output of the sun actually changes; it fluctuates, and astrophysicists measure these kinds of things, and they're much better at predicting climate change than so-called climate scientists are, because it doesn't really have anything to do with carbon. It has everything to do with the sun's output and interactions between the sun, the moon, and the magnetosphere. And like the warming that we're feeling now is actually the result of solar activity about 800 years ago. So, that's because as the ocean heats up, it releases carbon, but it's on a much longer time scale, because specific heat capacity of water is like 4.2, and that's really high. So the real science is more like astrophysics than it is carbon. But yeah, the UN is a Chinese-dominated democracy of dictators, and many of them spend way too much time normalizing pedophilia to be in any position to tell us how to live. That's my attitude, but I think that the people running this country probably worship the UN and some kind of global governance. It's a very left-wing country, I'm afraid to say. So I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if we virtue signals our way right into another dark ages if the UN so declared that, it to be virtuous.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how, what would it take for people to, if let's say just hypothetically we go into energy lockdowns. I mean, me and Nico talked about this earlier. I really think this time will be different. I think there's a lot of people who weren't necessarily active or engaged during the COVID lockdowns that would be out on this one. Just the fact that, like, wait a minute, what the fuck are we even doing here? We have the second or third largest oil reserves in the world, and we're in an energy lockdown. Like that's if nothing else, that's a massive indictment of our leadership for the last 10 years, that you haven't set up the infrastructure. Because right now, like, we can't get Alberta oil here to the East Coast. Like, even if we want it here, we can't get it. We're importing. I don't know if you ever spend. Yeah, exactly. I don't know if you ever spent much time in St. John, New Brunswick, where the refinery is there, but you'll see. I used to live right where you could see the refinery out my window, and you'd see every day 20 ships lined up, and those are all from the Middle East, Saudi Arabia. I think there's some from Venezuela. So we're importing massive numbers of oil, even though we produce far more than we use. It's just such a massive failure of leadership, of governance, and it boils down to the Liberals have this philosophy. They'll never admit this overtly, but they have a philosophy that it's fundamentally immoral to extract our own natural resources, and they have allowed this policy or philosophy to guide every decision they made over the last 10 years. And that's why we've had fucking 1% GDP growth over the last 10 years. Not even 1% a year, which would be bad enough, which would still place us at the bottom of the G7, but 1% over 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real sad state of affairs in Canada. And Carney was the guy who said, he was talking about releasing our strategic oil reserves, and then somebody pointed out that we don't have any, and he's like, oh yeah, I mean, I mean, by reserves, I mean, we're going to take it out of the ground. We don't have to keep reserves because we're an oil exporting nation. It's nations who import oil that have to keep strategic reserves. And as you just pointed out, we actually do import oil. We import it to New Brunswick, so it can be refined in St. John. And also the United States is a net exporter ever since the fracking revolution took place. So they export oil and they keep massive oil reserves. So I think it's just the case that we have not saved for a rainy day. Like the Trudeau regime absolutely gutted all of the safeguards that have been built up over generations, whether you're talking about the oil reserves or our strategic gold reserves that were all signed off. And I mean, China has a massive gold reserve now. They've been stacking that up for, well over a decade. So, if when the next global financial collapse hits, we are screwed. Like, we have absolutely nothing in reserves, nothing for a rainy day. So it could be
But
this
you
year.
don't
I think
need
it will be
it
this
because we have a lot of natural resources. You don't have to worry about that.
And we've got a strong
on,
relationship with the U.S.
Come on,
too,
man.
right? So
Yeah, come on, man.
year. Yeah.
that's really been.
Trump just said he doesn't
That's-
want us anymore, right?
No.
Well,
No,
that's
it is
why
the
we haven't
dumbest thing.
invested. Because our leaders have been like, oh, we've got Big Brother down south. They love us. We have a good relationship. And then they went about trashing that relationship, or at least didn't, invest in it the way that they needed to do it. Donald Trump came in, and yeah, he's a blowhard. Yeah, he's not like the most polite guy. Yeah, he's a bull in a china shop. But if you get away from your butthurt feelings for a bit, some of the things he said, he was right. Canada has been taking advantage of U.S. largesse, and instead of actually approaching that from a good faith position and saying, hey, is there something to what he's saying? They just said, oh, it's Donald Trump, he's an idiot. We'll just run an election on elbows up. And once you do that, then you're locked into this, hate on Donald Trump thing. And now you've got this relationship in tatters. That was the entire fucking reason why we haven't been investing in ourselves in the last 20 or 30 years.
Yeah, and it all started over the 51st state comment, but that was entirely Trudeau's fault. Trudeau flat out told him that
Governor
Canada
Trudeau.
Governor Trudeau, exactly. He flat out told Donald Trump that Canada can't stand on its own without the United States. What would happen if that? I forget what the question was, but I think it was what would happen if the CUSMA were to go away, or if these agreements were to go away, And Trudeau said that Canada would cease to exist as a country, and he was like, "Well, then you should be a state. Like, if you can't stand on your own as a country, you should be a state." That's a very logical thing to say. He's not wrong. In saying that, Trudeau was very wrong for showing his hand like that, like, way to negotiate from a position of strength.
I've got 7-2 off suit. I'm all in.
And by the way,
it was very clever. Very clever to say, "Oh, just become the 51st state." He's been talking about this for 2 years now. People are still fucking butthurt. That was a brilliant comment. Love him or not, that was fucking epic.
Well, it's a logical one. If the leader of the country is saying we can't survive without you, then to me, he's just connecting dots.
And the thing was, they ran the fear campaign right up to the 2 minutes of hate from 1984. It was just that Trump was Orange Goldstein, and everybody was encouraged to seethe and project all of their pain and blame onto Orange Goldstein on the telescreen for the 2 minutes of hate. And now we're stuck with a really bad case of mass formation Trump derangement syndrome. But what he actually said was he made us a very generous offer, actually. And he was like, I'll give you dollar for dollar. So all of us, everybody in the country who has a bank account, would have gotten richer. We would have had a real military, we would have had a real national defense. We would have had better health care. We would have had better protections for our speech, more freedoms. So it was actually the case that he was making us a generous offer. And Carney turned around and said, Donald Trump wants our land, he wants our water, he wants our natural resources, like he was going to invade and take over the country. And it was like, no, he's a real estate guy. He was talking about a real estate deal that would have made everybody in Canada richer and better off.
And frankly, would not have been good for the United States. That's two new Democratic senators from, like, that's basically adding California, right? It actually would have been terrible for the Republicans.
The deal they should have made that I've been calling up for since the beginning is, let's do a trade. I will exchange. I need three liberal spots in the U.S. I will trade. You give us 3 Democrats, I will give you 3 conservatives. And we will exchange. Like, the people that are not happy in the U.S., come to Canada. People that are not happy in Canada, go to the U.S. That'd be a fair trade. That'd be a very fair trade.
I think it would have been more like he would make us a territory first. Like,
of course.
Yeah, you couldn't
can't vote
statehood.
No.
But even
no, you can't.
Even if you're going to reject it, because I actually like being Canadian. I don't want to be American. And it's not just about, I recognize that's a good deal, but there's a way you can reject that deal and not destroy the relationship between the United States and Canada. and he didn't do that. He basically ran an election on the destruction of this relationship. And then once he was in, you know, he starts making speeches of you know, it's a new paradigm. It's the old world's gone. And well, yeah, it certainly is now, but like it didn't have to be that way. Even if you don't like Donald Trump, like your relationship is not with Donald Trump, it's with the United States of America. Canada will be here long after Donald Trump is gone. So you bite the bullet, you do what you have to in order to retain a foundation. Because I mean, Donald Trump's not a fucking warlord. Like he's petty and vindictive for sure, but that's the other thing we talk about all the time. He's actually really easy to manipulate. Fucking let him be the big man in the room, right? Flatter his ego a little bit, try to stroke his ego, and you can actually get quite a few things from him. But it was unseemly for them to do that, especially after they spent the whole campaign hating on him, and it would have been so easy.
And we should be thanking him for getting rid of Justin Trudeau. Actually, that's what came out of that. He got rid of Justin Trudeau. And it was Carney who decided that he was going to destroy the relationship with the United States in order to get elected. He was the one, elbows up. Basically, our strategy is to be mean to the great Donald, so he'll want to be nicer to us. And apparently that he was the only one who didn't realize it doesn't work that way. So now we have Donald Trump coming out and saying, you know what, never mind Canada. We don't want you anymore. And Kuzma is going to expire this year and the whole country is just going to
he's not going to renew that. I don't think there's any way he's going to renew that.
No.
Well, it's not going to expire this year. It's just they need to make a deal this year, or else it doesn't renew in a few years down the road. It's not like it's up for renewal this year. It's just you open the door to sorry, I'm not negotiating anymore. So be ready that 3-4 years from now, when it does expire, you're fucked.
And the markets will respond accordingly now, right?
They will.
Forward looking.
But we'll be in energy lockdowns by now, so it's not going to matter. Jeff, before you go,
fuel.
No woods, no fuel. Well, only 7 to 9 inches of wood.
Yeah,
that's all the wood we can handle.
No knives. Yeah, no knives above 6 inches.
That's all the wood we can handle. Now, Jeff, you wanted to talk about something else that you've been working on, maydaycanada.ca. So tell us what this is all about. I clicked on your link and then I got sidetracked and I started scrolling through X. God damn it, it's too well done, huh? Fucking social media. So what's Mayday? maydaycanada.com. What is that?
So we're doing an event on the 5th of May. We're calling it May Day Kids in Crisis. I think that there's a renewed appetite for this conversation around...
Crisis as in Christ? Jeff, I didn't know you were... I know, I'm just fucking with you. I'm sorry, man.
So it's called Kids in Crisis, and we're bringing an end to childhood transition in Canada. I think there's a renewed appetite for this conversation in the wake of Tumbler Ridge. We saw what happened where we had a male shooter in a dress who was described as a female in a dress by the RCMP, and across the board, all of the institutions spewed the usual dogma, the transgender cult dogma. And it's a public safety issue. So I think a lot of people kind of woke up to that. And then we just had that school shooting plot that involved schools in Nova Scotia and Manitoba that was foiled by local police with the help of the FBI and Interpol. And again, the CBC referred to the would-be assassin in Nova Scotia as a girl when in fact it was a boy transitioning to a girl, according to Juno News. So that appears to be the case. And this is part of a broader trend that we've seen in the United States with trans shooters. So I think that the public is a little more awake to this issue now, and it's a good time to go to Parliament. We're going to do a parliamentary press gallery in the morning at 10:30. So anybody with independent media, make sure you got your press pass, because it's not like we can count on MSM to show up. But we are trying to penetrate that mainstream bubble. That's the purpose of the press gallery in the morning. And then we're going to do a rally on the Hill at 1 p.m. Now, I personally, I'm not real big on the protest scene these days because I don't think anybody, they don't care if we protest. And protesters are pretty awake to this issue already. But, we're going to do a rally and a march to try to raise some awareness, bring people together. And it's always a good networking opportunity. And And then we're doing a town hall in the evening. And thanks for bringing that up, because those are the speakers that we have lined up so far. And I have a couple more in queue.
Well, we've had me on the show a few times. We love Mia here.
Well,
Mia's
I've
great,
spoken to Kelly Lynn before. We've had Mia Hughes on the show. I've been trying to get Barry Newfield. That's the not the teacher, but he was on the board of teachers that got sued for like $500,000. That woman is a blast. I met Dr. Ann Gillies last year at the NCI. If you guys don't know her, she's fucking awesome. I absolutely love this woman. I got to sit down with her. She's awesome. So you guys have some.
And Scott Nugent.
Yes.
So
and
Scott
Nugent too.
Yeah, he's the keynote speaker. Flying him up from the United States to come with us and help me lead this rally. And he's going to be the keynote speaker at the town hall. And for anybody who's not familiar, Scott Nugent is a trans man, as in a lesbian woman who transitioned to male when she was 42, and he's now 53 and has all of the health complications, and has been very public about it and very active in opposing childhood transition, and very famous for being on What is a Woman by Matt Walsh.
Yes, that's right.
So yeah, very energetic, passionate about the cause. Really great.
That's the guy that's on the background of that of your posters, right? The guy with the green eyes. Yeah, that's him. Yeah, I'm looking at him now. Yeah, that's him.
I didn't look.
Yeah, that should be a great show. That should be a great event.
Sorry, man. I noticed people's eyes. It's kind of. I'm French. It's not gay. We make eye contact, man. Come on.
Yeah. And we have a couple of others who are in queue too, like Dr. James Cantor. He has confirmed that he will be coming up, and Chris Fleury with the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms, who's working that case to get the men out of women's prisons. So, and we're hoping to bring as many from the community, like lesbians, gays, bisexuals, trans, anybody who wants to oppose the agenda to transition kids in particular, then they're absolutely welcome. And we started a petition. I sent it to Garnett Genius. I'm not holding my breath that anybody is going to take it, but I did start a parliamentary petition. And, there's a give, send, go there too. So we'd appreciate any help, because right now I'm just going out of pocket paying for plane tickets to get some of these people here and stuff like that, get them to Ottawa rather. So 5th of May, May Day, Kids in Crisis. And, I think it's going to be a really great event. And this is the issue of our era. Like this is our children are our future and the most vulnerable among us. So, I mean, any society that doesn't protect its children is not going to be a society for very much longer.
I can agree with that.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, Jeff, it's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure having you on.
Yes. Great spot to pin it there. I appreciate you, Jeff.
Yeah, keep us updated on what's going on in court. Keep us updated on what's going on May 5th. And yeah, man, thanks for doing what you do, bro. Great Maine. Great Maine again. Great Maine.
All right, Jeff. Yeah. Have a great night, sir.
Thanks. Take care.
See you later, man.
See ya.
So there you have it.
Excellent job.
And he does have a majestic mane.
It's majestic. Yeah, it's fucking Mufasa mane there.
We see him every couple of months, and it's just like
it gets bigger and bigger.
Like, oh yeah.
It just gets bigger and bigger. Yeah. But yeah, excellent chat with Jeff. Always love to have Jeff here. You did the
we talked about our sponsor. The only thing I need to say before we go, we go off for the next 2 days, is on Sunday we are joined. We're gonna have an interesting show on Sunday, because we are joined by a pastor that got ticketed for preaching the Bible in a park. And by what I've seen, it was not a big crowd. It was literally 10 to 20 people. And he got fined for preaching in the park. He goes by the name of Alan Armstrong. And it's very ironic, considering that Muslims in Canada are able to take over streets. They're able to take over parks. They're able to do whatever the fuck they want. No problem. But a pastor that preached in a park where there was 10 to 20 people, got ticketed. So we're going to have him on the show 7:30 on Wednesday. Not on Wednesday. My apologies. 7:30 Eastern time on Sunday. This Sunday.
Sunday. All right, guys, we're gonna pin it there. An excellent end to the week. Great show, great interview. Lots of new faces. If you are new and you want to support the show, please consider becoming a member. You can do that through YouTube for the low price of $2.99 per month. You can also buy us a coffee, which you will see in the upper left-hand corner of your screen. And also, I think we've got to make a note of this at Church of HZ. Gave us bought us a coffee earlier, gave us a tip. Appreciate it, sir. Or ma'am. I'm not really sure which one that is. But and of course, another way to support the show, keep coming back. So yes, bold of you to assume their gender. Keep coming back. Throw those comments out there. We will get to them. Anytime we don't have a guest, we are always taking comments. Oh, our newest member, Jeremy Mells. Appreciate you, sir. Other than that, folks, excellent week. Have a safe and fun weekend. We will catch you Sunday night.
Sunday. Peace.
Sunday.